Zettelkasten, reducing friction and maintaining traction. Reducing friction and maintaining traction. Hello everyone, my name is Al Person. I'm glad that you're joining and visiting with me today. This is an additional video on my journey into the second mind world of Zettelkasten, which works very, very well for me. And I'm just sharing some thoughts as I go along, about once every 2 weeks and so on. The reason we don't do it every week is, well, I've got a business to run and various other things and family and so on, and we're just really busy. But also, sometimes you feel obligated or pressed to do things. You're not at a place to do it. So I've just done the 2-week thing here. If it works, it works. Send these to your friends, to your enemies, to whatever. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below if you want. Now, the Zettelkasten approach, as we've talked about many times in the past, is a really, really great way to develop and use a second mind, which is to say, a way to organize thoughts in the way that your mind organizes and holds thoughts, but that is also complementary to your thought processes, and it is a supplement to your daily life and the things that you want to know about and learn about. And the Zettelkasten approach is more than just slips in a box or notes in a notepad. The beauty has to do with the interaction of your notes one with another, and that's why a physical or a movable or linkable card system really, really works very well. If you put all your notes in order in a notebook, and of course that's valuable, and many of us do that and still do it, you'll find that these things will stay within a kind of a topic context. And there's a challenge there when you want to link them to some other topic. So maybe your the thought that you have in this topic context is very relevant to something else that you're doing. Well, how do you link it? How do you do that? Now, in the internet world, we have hyperlinks, which kind of work really well. And actually, strangely enough, the linking of Zettels is a hyperlinking kind of process. And that's why it does lend itself to electronic variations and electronic options. And there are some very wonderful electronic Zettelkasten tools out there. Do I use one? No. Would I? I kind of doubt it. However, I think there's a strength to have some kind of an electronic indexing system somewhere so you can search through your indexes and go off to your cards later on. So am I weakening? Well, and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying at the moment I don't. So what is this friction traction thing all about? Of course, what you want to do in any project in life is maintain and keep as much traction as possible. You want every one of your steps or moves to actually gain ground or at least hold ground. You don't want to be slipping. I've got a picture on the thumbnail of someone climbing up a sand dune. I run on the sand quite a bit, and you kind of see, you walk, you run on sand, that it's hard to maintain traction when you're on sand. The sand just doesn't give you much to grip on. You really don't want to be involved in life projects or learning projects wherein you just can't get traction. Every step you take just tends to go backwards. It's just exhausting to do that. Many years ago, I guess it was 2009, and it's now a lot of years ago, I was running on the sand. It was a hot, hot day around Christmas time here. It's hot Christmas time, our part of the world. And there was a young lady, I think she just received a Christmas present. It was, day after Christmas. And she had a harness on, and she was pulling a tire on the beach. And she was working, and you could really tell how hard she was working. And of course, she had all of those things I'm talking about going. She had to maintain traction to keep it going, but the tire was giving her excess friction. Okay, it was pulling back. Now, of course, you can't have all of one without the other. It's impossible to have physical movement where there's, well, certainly on the Earth, maybe in space it's a little different, where you have just traction and no friction and so on. You really need this combination. You're going to have friction. What do I mean by that? You're going to have things that are going to resist you, even in something like Zettelkasten. What's the approach? What's my approach? What can you think about? If you're new to this process, there may be something going on in your thinking that says, yeah, but I'm one of these guys who starts something and then it sort of gets tough for me. It's like, right? Initially, when I started, I'm getting some traction. There's not too much friction, but as I go on, there's just too much friction. What do I mean? Everything I do is exhausting. It's wearing me down. I can't gain ground. Okay, Zettelkasten, maintaining high traction, keeping friction low. This starts with the way you take notes during the day and how you take them and how frequently you take them and what you do. The first and most important thing to do in any note, I say this again and again, is to have a UID, a unique identifier for every note, which my process works by date, so I have year, month, day, and then alpha. And that uniquely identifies the note. Now there's a great advantage to this when you're out and about. If I have my diary at work and I don't have my box of Zettels, there's no problem. If I have a thought, I go to an early diary page that's unused or stick something in the diary and I just record that date, which is always in this format for me. Does not have to be for you, but it's a good suggestion. This is 2022-1024A. So this is the 24th day of October 2022A. Now the way that this is sorted means that I can always sort them in order, A, B, C, D, or E. So if I'm out and about, all I need to do is look at the date. I've got my code right there, A, B, C. Now I might have forgotten which one, A, B, C, D. That really doesn't matter. I can add that later when I put them in the box. Remember, I just said I just took this in a notepad. Maybe I took it on my phone. Maybe I just did some other way of taking this note. So that approach then is a low friction approach. Nothing is getting in my way, okay? Low friction. I can just keep taking notes, taking notes. Now, why do I like to use the paper form? This may not appeal to you. My handwriting changes depending on my mood and my perception of a thing. It's fascinating. And I can look at my handwriting and say, okay, I wasn't rushed, I was really thinking this through, or whatever. When you're typing, keying, using two thumbs to enter something on your phone, you lose that ability to do that. The other way to do this and keep your friction very low, because the friction is the initial thing that has to stay low. The other thing that you can do, of course, is circle a word that means something. You can double circle it. You can highlight it. You can say, that's the key word. So I've recorded this with low friction, just low pain. It's easy to do. Okay, well, now I've stuck it in a box and forgotten about it. All right, well, I have no traction on this card. That's just useless now. It's just stuck there. I'll come back 3, 4, 5 weeks later and I'll be trolling through these and saying, oh, what's that all about? All right. So now I need to gain traction. And again, this is the opposite but necessary party. I'm sorry. Yes, low friction. Now I need to gain traction. This is the time when you review your card. You might do some editing on it. You cross-link it. You link it to its index card. Traction. That's the time. Now the traction thing is much more important than you would think. You only do this because you want to bring change in your life. And in order to bring change, you're going to have to work at it. But you're going to have to work at it in a way that reduces and takes pain away from your life as much as possible. I think you know what I'm saying. Now the reason here that we're talking about the traction friction thing is, and I have noticed this and I'm pretty sure you have too, is one of the great friction causers in life. One of those things that causes you just to say, I just can't do this anymore. That's it. I'm just totally tapped out. I'm exhausted. Is the presence of those things in your head when you're trying to do other things. You notice? It's mental exhaustion. This is the advantage of an approach like the Zettelkasten approach. You're able to take those things that are there, put them somewhere on paper that thinks the way that you think. Is there effort? Yes. Is that reasonably high friction? It is high friction, but it's not as bad as the friction of trying to hold these thoughts while you're trying to accomplish something else. How then does that give you traction? Well, you'll be surprised as you have not just taken one range of thoughts and put them on cards, you've taken another and another and another, and they start to work together. Amazing things will begin to happen while you're sleeping at night. You say, I never realized these two are related, and you'll join them, and who knows? Now, this, of course, works for all three of your card types. There are 3 card types. There is your fleeting card, there is your literature card, and then your permanent card, evergreen, which we'll talk about later on. These are cards that you've really worked a little more on and with, and they are cards that you're not going to get rid of. You're going to keep. They're actually the desired child of the other two. The other two feed into those, okay? So this is just something to think about. When you engage in something like Zettelkasten, when you start to take and create the second brain, ask yourself continually, first of all, How do I reduce friction? How do I get into this without being stopped with the failure to implement exhaustion, where I just get in and start doing it and I start to record? And once I'm in with low friction, once I'm recording these thoughts as either fleeting or literature or more permanent thoughts, once I'm doing it, how do I gain traction? How do I make it work as my servant, not my master? How do I get that to be something that I can use on a daily basis all the time? And that's the wonderful journey of a reasonably good and well-maintained note system like Zettelkasten. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick little motivational discussion about Zettelkasten, reducing friction and maintaining traction. My name is Al Person. Come back soon and we'll talk again about this marvelous topic.